can you see me? Hello? Where are you guys? I'm here. Where are you? Ah, there you are. Can you see me? We're heading back into outer space today, and we're talking about how to launch our faith in Jesus to new heights. Let me just take this suit off so you can hear me better, and I'll be right with you. Whew, that's a little better. In space, astronauts have to wear a lot of special equipment, like helmets, boots, gloves, and suits. Not like that. No. After a long day in space, an astronaut would probably need to sit back, relax, kick off those astronaut boots, and soak their feet in a nice foot bath. Speaking of feet, let's talk about feet. We're going to pause the video and have another family discussion now. Have you ever stepped in something really gross? What did you step in? And would you want to step in that gross thing again? I'm going to put those questions up on the screen, pause the video, and have a family discussion about feet. Casey, no! No one likes to step in gross things. That's why we wear shoes when we go outside, to keep our feet from getting dirty. Ugh, so gross. Today, we're going to hear a story about a group of people who all had really dirty feet. One person, named Jesus, who decided to wash their feet for them. So the story can teach us something really important about how we can launch our faith in Jesus to new heights. Can you guess what our big idea is today? We can serve others. In the last few lessons, we've learned that we can spend time with God. We've learned that people can help our faith to grow. And last week, we learned how we can share God's story. Our Bible story today comes from the book of John, which is in the New Testament, one of the Gospels again, where you open your Bible just past the halfway mark and go Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are our 4 books of the Gospels, and we're looking for the book of John, big number 13, little number, we're starting right at the very beginning, and we're reading verses 1 to 17, and then jumping and reading verses 34 to 35. You are welcome to pause me and read it in your own Bible. I'm going to put the scripture up here, and meanwhile, I brought one of my kids' Bibles as well today to read it to you. You can fast forward this part if you want to read it together as a family, or do both, pause me, and hear the story read here. So it's called Jesus Washes the Disciples' Feet. Before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world and return to his Father. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. It was time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, "Do you understand what I was doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. I tell you the truth, slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them." Jesus' friends, who we call the disciples, had pretty dirty feet. That's because people in those days didn't have boots, sneakers, paved roads, cars, buses, or bikes. Instead, they wore their sandals and either walked or rode animals down dusty roads. That means their feet got really, really dirty. Plus, mealtime back then was different from what mealtime might be like at your house. Instead of sitting at a tall table and chairs, people used to sit or lie on the ground to eat. That means your food would be really close to everyone's dirty feet. Ugh. So you'd probably want to make sure your feet got washed before you sat down to eat dinner. Back then, people either washed their feet themselves, or they would let the least important person in the room wash their feet for them. That's why it was so surprising when Jesus decided to get down and wash his friends' feet. Jesus' friends knew that Jesus was not the least important person in the room. He was the most important person in the world. Now's a chance for you and your family to have another little discussion. I have a few questions for you to answer, so I'm going to put them up on the screen, but I want you to pause this video and talk about, why do you think Jesus decided to wash his friends' feet? And do you think that Jesus wants you to wash your friends' feet? Do you think that's what he means from this message? So pause the video, talk it over with your family, and then come on back and we'll share what we came up with. See you in a bit. So the first question I asked you was, why do you think Jesus decided to wash his friends' feet? So 3 ideas here. 1, because his friends needed it. Foot washing was really gross, but Jesus' friends needed their feet washed. 2, because he loved them. By washing their feet, Jesus was showing his friends that he cared about them so much that he'd even do something gross to serve them. And the 3rd is because he wanted to set an example. He told his disciples to wash each other's feet now that he had washed their feet. The other question I asked you was, do you think Jesus wants you to wash your friends' feet? Do you think he literally meant that in the Bible story today? So maybe washing a friend's feet could be nice, but that's not exactly what Jesus meant with this story. Jesus knew that there's all sorts of ways we can serve and take care of each other, and he wanted his friends to take care of others like he had taken care of them. In the early days of the church, Jesus' followers tried really hard to figure out how to serve other people well, like Jesus had said. One Jesus follower named Paul wrote a letter to help them understand how to serve and care for each other. So I'm going to put that letter up on, or part of that letter up on the screen. It's Romans 12, verse 3 to 8. I'm going to put it up on the screen and we'll read it together. Because of the privilege and authority God has given me, I give each of you this warning. Don't think you are better than you really are. Be honest in your evaluation of yourselves, measuring yourselves by the faith God has given us. Just as our bodies have many parts, and each part has a special function, so it is with Christ's body. We are many parts of one body, and we all belong to each other. In his grace, God has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. So if God has given you the ability to prophecy, speak out with as much faith as God has given you. If your gift is serving others, serve them well. If you are a teacher, teach well. If your gift is to encourage others, be encouraging. If it's giving, give generously. If God has given you leadership ability, take the responsibility seriously. And if you have a gift for showing kindness to others, do it gladly. There are so many ways for us to serve others, and not everyone needs to serve others in the same way. When we're at church, you'll see people serving by playing music, by reading Bible stories, by teaching, by helping at the checkout area, by answering questions, by setting up our church service or cleaning up our church service, by bringing food, by serving the food, making sure everyone has something to eat. There's so many different ways. And outside church, there's even more ways to serve others. We can serve each other by helping each other, encouraging each other, sharing with each other, and giving to each other. Just like Jesus did for his friends, you can serve others too. And what a perfect time to do that. So now what? Just like Paul said, God has given you gifts that you can use to serve others. And when I say gifts, I don't mean like a new Lego set or dolls or video games. God has given us even better gifts than that. To help you learn about all the different gifts that God has given us, families, if you go into the description of this video to the Google Drive folder, I've put a sheet filled with presents with different gifts on them. If you could print those out for your kids, you can color them, you can talk about them, try to brainstorm ways you could use each of those gifts to serve others. So have fun with that sheet and use it as an opportunity to talk about the different gifts that God gives people. So now's the chance for you guys to have a family discussion, and mom and dads, this is where it's your chance to shine. I want you to talk to your children about a time someone served you. So tell a story from your own life. Talk about a time when someone used their gifts to serve you. You might talk about a teacher who taught you something important, or someone who comforted you when you were afraid, or someone who said something kind to you when you were sad. So try to choose an example that your children could also copy. So I want you to pause the video and I want you to think of a time when someone served you. What did they do for you? Have a moment to share with your kids. This has been such a great lesson today on how we can serve others and seeing the example that Jesus set for us. There are so many ways to serve others, and some of the ways we can serve others are really easy, but others can be really hard. When Jesus washed his friends' feet, it was a dirty and uncomfortable job. Their feet probably smelled weird, it probably hurt to kneel on the ground for so long, but foot washing isn't the most difficult thing Jesus did to serve others. Shortly after the dinner, where Jesus washed his friends' feet, Jesus was arrested and then killed because of the things he did and said. A few days later, Jesus rose from the dead, but that doesn't mean he didn't suffer. Jesus' sacrifice was one way he served us, because his pain gave us the chance to have forgiveness, salvation, and life forever with God. So when we remember the huge sacrifice that Jesus made to show us love, it makes our job of showing love to others seem so much easier. So this week, I hope you remember how exciting it is that we can serve others. And when we serve others like Jesus served others, we get to see God launch our faith and other people's faith too, to even greater heights. So once again, in that description below is a Google Drive folder with a few activities for you guys to do with your families. Read the Read Me First file to have an idea of what to do with it all. There's also a memory verse we've been working on all month long from Psalm 119 verse 105. Try to get that memorized by the end of the week. And next week, I hope you guys tune back in. I can't wait to see you again. This is super exciting. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great week.